From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with an Elsa briefing here as of 11:30 this morning on Wednesday, the 7th of July. And well, I wanted to provide this briefing to kind of get everybody up to speed on what's going on and provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. And for those new to this webinar, you have a question box, like a little chat box on your end. Whatever app or web browser you're using to join, there should be a question box where you could type your questions in if you have any. But I do ask that you kind of, before you ask your questions, just hang in there through the slides, and there's a good chance I might get to your question. Brian asked, how do I find the chat box? And just if you have multiple monitors, my suggestion is to close all the applications in the tabs pages you have up, and then it'll be there. It's like a little application box. And then if you're using a tablet or your smartphone, it should be at the bottom of the viewing window. All right. So let's go ahead and first get you caught up to speed on what is going on, where it's at right now. And you could see, as I zoom in there to the northeast Gulf of Mexico, you could see the center of Elsa is kind of hidden somewhere down in there. It looks like it's probably already made landfall there. But I'm not going to make that official call. Obviously, that's for the Hurricane Center to do. But it's kind of hidden underneath those high clouds, and you can see the bands typical of a tropical cyclone. And as I veer further out, you could see the high clouds associated with the outflow of the storm, basically spreading up toward and into the Carolinas, at least to South Carolina. It's not unusual for the low-level counterclockwise rotation to induce some basically some converging airstreams, and that's what's helping to cause some of the shower activity you see there down near Wilmington and just inland of Charleston. So that's the situation. It's possible that some of that converging streams and a warm air mass lifting north, tropical air mass lifting north, could give us a few showers and thunderstorms across southern portions of central North Carolina late this afternoon, but that should not be a problematic episode, just some passing showers and thunderstorms. So anyway, that's what you got right now. Otherwise, enjoy the filtered sunshine and temperatures there climbing through the 80s for today. So that's what's going on right now. All right, let me close this window and we'll go to the slides. I want to show you the latest advisory from Elsa, from the Hurricane Center on Elsa as of 11 o'clock. And one thing you'll notice, look at that track, okay? And let me pull up another web page because I think it's worth taking the time to show you the trend in the track. And this web page is courtesy of the National Hurricane Center's web page. If you go to their advisory archive, that's where you can find this. And basically, here is their latest advisory. But as I hit the back button, you could see these buttons here at the top. Like, for instance, you could toggle between, going forward or going backwards, going forward, going to the first one, going to the last one, etc. So just to call that out and make sure everybody's aware. For instance, if I go all the way to the back, that's the very first advisory on Elsa. But here's the latest. And let me go back about 5 advisories so you can see the trend. That's 1 previous, 2 previous, 3 previous, 4 previous, 5 previous, 6 previous. So look what the trend is. So that's 6 advisories ago. And as I go forward in time, look how it shifts ever so slightly west. And here's the latest. Basically, remember yesterday we were talking about the center of the track going up I-95. Well, now the center of the circulation, albeit it'll be a depression by the time it's crossing the Carolinas, obviously much weakened. But why, we should, as we always say, never focus on the center, because impacts can occur well away from the center. But the reason I'm focusing here on the center just momentarily is because as the track of the center shifts, so do the envelope of impacts. So there's an envelope of impacts, particularly rainfall. And if the center shifts west, so too will that envelope of where the heavy rainfall will likely occur. So anyway, instead of confining heavy rainfall to just eastern North Carolina, the trend has been further and further west with each run, and further west with where the heavier rainfall may occur. So that is the trend that I want to point out here. And if you've been following our slides as we have been emailing them out over the course of the last 36 hours, you see most of this text hasn't changed. Most of this text hasn't changed. But what we have included here in the red font is models trending westward with the western edge or western extent of the heavier rainfall. So now that heavy rain can occur anywhere across central North Carolina. Right now, though, based on the current track, we still kind of have to highlight east of US 1 being the most likely place for the heaviest rain. But I don't want to leave out the triad as potentially getting that 1 to 2 inch, one to maybe even 1 to 3 inch rainfall amounts. We'll see. But the bottom line is that I think we're going to be, during the course of this afternoon, fine tuning those rainfall forecast graphics. And when we send these slides out later this afternoon, I would suspect that the heavier rain swath in our forecast rainfall amounts might be shifted just ever so slightly westward. Okay, other than that, there is a risk for wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. The highest winds, again, along and east of US 1. As I already mentioned, the rain really is going to be our biggest concern. And that's not unusual for inland tropical cyclone events. Rain is usually our biggest concern. When we talk about tropical cyclones affecting central North Carolina, we always say, think about water. Think about water. And the rainfall and flash flood potential will probably be the biggest impact with this tropical cyclone, much like many others. Okay? And then obviously, another thing we look at for the track, for the center, is because typically along and east of the center of the storm, there's a risk for tornadoes. And no surprise here, there's a level 1 out of 5 risk for isolated tornadoes. So it's a small risk, but it's certainly a risk. And that, again, will be mainly along and east of US 1. So while widespread wind, strong winds are not really expected, aside from a stray 40-mile-per-hour wind gust, if an isolated tornado touches down, obviously that could cause more substantial damage. But that should be very, very few and far between. It is possible, but should be very isolated if those do happen. Okay. Am I missing anything, Nick? My colleague here who's sitting behind me, did I cover all the impacts?
I think you did for our current thinking, and you highlighted the areas. And I don't know if you want to talk about the temporal. I know you're going to get to that later, but perhaps the timing of the rain and that kind of stuff. But
okay,
that might be further along.
So normally I don't spend a whole lot of time on this slide, but I really want to drive home the point that wind, yeah, that's a concern. Will a gust up to 40 mile per hour cause problems? Yeah, if you have a tree in your property that's already dead and half leaning over, a gust of 40 will blow it down. So make sure today is a good day to clean up any dead trees. Obviously it might be too late to take trees down, but just make sure you don't have any branches that are leaning on your home or business or school or property. Those are the things you want to make sure are taken care of. And remember, an isolated tornado can cause more substantial damage, but that'll be very isolated. The thing we really want to drive home is the rain risk. And the key thing there is most flash flood deaths occur in automobiles, so you never want to drive through areas where water covers a roadway. We ask our media partners and emergency manager partners to try to convey that and get that message out that we have to be careful on the roadways. All right, so let's talk about a few other graphics, show a few other graphics real quick. Obviously, this is just kind of highlighting which of the hazards we think is going to be the biggest problem. Right now, we think 3 inches of rain is sort of the tipping point for when you would versus when you wouldn't have river concerns. So that's why we have river flooding down on the low end of our concern, because we think that because it's a fast-moving storm, there might be enough rain to cause localized flash flooding, but not enough to cause river flooding. Okay, so flash flooding locally, but not enough for river flooding. If we start to see that amounts may exceed 3 inches, that could change. So, but right now we think due to the forward movement and speed of the storm, that rainfall amount should stay under 3 inches. Okay. So this is where we think the greatest wind impacts. Again, I've already alluded to that. Tropical storm force wind speed probabilities have actually, while have shifted west, the probabilities themselves have come down. So I would say that that's just a reflection of the storm making landfall and weakening. Okay. When is the wind going to be an issue? Well, if there are isolated gusts to 40, it'd be daytime. And this is the simulations. I wanted to share this. One of our core partners asked, well, when do we think the core of the winds, if for where those 40-mile-per-hour gusts would occur, when do we think that would occur or be possible? And I want you to note that the wind gusts shown here on this slide are gusts and not sustained. So don't think this is like going to be blowing the entire time. This is only gusts, which will not occur a lot, but just isolated gusts. So sustained winds, keep in mind, are not expected to exceed 25 miles per hour anywhere across central North Carolina. So again, these are just gusts, but the gusts are expected to increase from south to north during the morning hours after sunrise. And then basically the afternoon hours is when we think, not only will we have the best chance for a gust to 40, but it should be the most, all of central North Carolina will have that. Well, not all, mainly eastern North Carolina and along and east of US 1, where you see those orange and red shades. That's where we think the greatest risk for a gust of 40 may occur. Again, along and east of US 1, more specifically east of I-95. And then by mid to late Thursday evening, the wind gusts will be exiting and winds will be diminishing very, very rapidly. Brian just popped a note here, and I'm glad you did, Brian. He said a few minutes ago the Hurricane Center announced that Elsa made landfall in Taylor County. So anyway, so there you have it. So it did make landfall. So anyway, yeah. So this is a daytime event basically, and that's kind of the gist that I wanted to show here. But keep in mind that you will feel those breezy winds increasing during the morning hours, but it should be mainly during the afternoon hours where it's kind of at its strongest. Okay. All right. Inland flooding. Where could there be flash flooding? Obviously, the orange is the area with the greatest potential. How much? We're still talking 1 to 3 inches. So I will, again, just one more time, reiterate that models are trending westward with the western edge of the or western extent of the heavier rainfall. So just keep that in mind. Just because you're in the light green, you're not off the hook. If you're in the light green, there's a possibility that could turn to dark green by later today. But we'll be. That's why we're here 24 hours a day to bring you updates as needed, and we'll be sending out these slides again at 5 p.m. with all the latest. But again, if you're in the light shade of green, let me get my highlighter out here so nobody's confused what I'm talking about. But basically, if you're in this part of central North Carolina, right here with the light green, you are not off the hook. Okay, the rainfall may trend higher in that area. All right. Okay, so flash flooding. This is mainly what these two slides are saying is that the area in yellow will have the greatest risk for flash flooding. Flash flooding is possible in the green, but probably not as widespread. And it's mainly, again, a daytime issue tomorrow. I kind of already alluded to this, but we think 3 inches of rain is kind of the tipping point for what could cause flash or river flooding, rather. And because we are expecting total amounts to stay below 3 inches, we are not predicting river flooding with this event. Again, that could change. I'm not going to go through this slide hour by hour, but I just want to, of course, I'll be emailing these slides out, but here's a simulation of the radar, and this is provided so you can get a sense of the timing. When's the rain going to get here? When's the rain going to exit? And you can see that the heaviest rain, these bands of heavy rain, are expected to lift north across central North Carolina, basically between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, 9 a.m. across the southern portions near the South Carolina border, more across the central portions of the Highway 64 corridor between noon and 3 p.m., and then finally exiting by 6 p.m. And most places should be dry by 9 p.m. Tomorrow. So basically what this says is that, from about late morning through the afternoon hours would be when the greatest risk for flash flooding would occur as well. So an afternoon concern in terms of timing for the greatest risk of flash flooding. All right, so tornado impacts, yellow is where we think the best risk for tornadoes. Again, same, just another way to convey that same message here. And that basically takes us through our slides. So confidence is high that this event's going to occur. Confidence is moderate regarding impacts, and the reason it's not high is because the models are still making some trends, if you will. And one of those trends is the westward shift in the heavier rainfall. So again, gusts to 40, 1 to 3 inches of rain, risk for flash flooding, and a small risk for an isolated tornado on Thursday daytime, mainly along and east of US 1. Those are our main concerns as it relates to Elsa across central North Carolina tomorrow. So that wraps up our briefing. Again, we'll get these slides updated and emailed. Well, actually, the slides I just showed you, I'm going to email here in the next 5 minutes. But then we're going to put newer, more updated information as it becomes available in our 5 p.m. slides. Okay, we'll have a tweaked rainfall map. We'll show that at 5 p.m. And there shouldn't be too many changes between now and 5, other than just tweaking that western extent of the rainfall. So I'll get to the questions here in a minute, but I'll just want to thank everybody for joining and those who are watching on YouTube after the live webinar. So we'll be back. We're going to do another live webinar tomorrow at 11:30. That's our regularly scheduled one. So you join that the same way you joined this one. And of course, those will be posted on our social media channels as well if you can't be there at the time they occur.